Good morning, everybody. I wanted to jump on here and continue our lesson for the 10 Commandments. We are now on the third commandment, which is, thou shalt not say the Lord's name in vain, which is Exodus chapter 20, verse 7. I'm using the NLT version, and it states, "You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name." And I know some of you are probably like, oh, I would never do that. I would never use the Lord's name in vain. Absolutely wouldn't do it. That's terrible. But to be honest, I think a lot of people do that without even realizing it. It's not just cursing out his name. So when he says misuse his name or use his name in vain, the Lord's name is holy. It's a righteous name. It is the almighty name. It is a blessed name. It's the name above all names. So what does it mean to misuse the Lord's name? And I have my little notebook here. I'm a notebook addict. I write tons of notes in my notebooks. When I first think of using the Lord's name in vain, the first thought, of course, that comes to most people's minds is cursing out his name, yelling out GD if you're mad, or if you stub your toe and it just comes out, or if you are disgusted with something or disgusted with somebody, or you just think that it's amazing what just happened in a bad way and you just yell out Jesus Christ, which is the same concept of using the Lord's name in vain. It's not specifically saying the Lord, it's his name. You shouldn't be misusing it. So most people, when they get upset, they yell out the GD, which I refuse to say that. I'm sure you know what I mean. And I want to talk about what it means when you damn something. So when you damn something, you are bringing damnation on it, or you are causing or leading to condemnation or ruin. So when you use the Lord's name as well as damn in the form of wanting to damning that name, you're using his name to try to cause damnation on something. And that's not what the Lord should be used for. You shouldn't be using him to request punishment on somebody or to cause ruin for somebody or something. You should be speaking his name, and it should be held in the highest regard in a loving way. Or you should be using it to call for help. Call on his name for help, to help get you through something or comfort you or support you. You don't want to call his name to cause damnation to anybody or anything. The second way that I find is the most common way, in my opinion, to use his name in vain is when people swear by his name. And when I say swear by his name, I mean if somebody asks you a question and you give them an answer and they don't believe you, and people are quick to say, I swear to God. Why do you have to swear to God and use God's name to validate what you're saying? If you're a person of your word, you shouldn't need to swear by God's name. And the Bible actually touches on this. So in Matthew chapter 5, verse 37, the Bible says, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything more is from the evil one." So if you're answering someone and you are a person of your word, someone who keeps truth to heart, you should be able to say, yes, you will do something and have someone believe you, or no, you didn't do something, and that should be it. You shouldn't have to use God's name to validate what you're saying to be true. If you have God in your heart, your word should be taken as your word, and that should be enough for somebody. You should never feel like you're forced to use God's name to reinforce what you're saying to be true, or to feel like you have to use his name as a strong commitment to do something. I feel the world that we live in today has caused people to make excuses for their decisions or to discontinue even having boundaries for ourselves or others. So when we were children, or especially when I was a child, if my mother said no, that was the end of it. I did not need an explanation of why she said no. Her no was a no, and that was it. I did not dare argue. And I understand that it is hard to give just a simple yes or a simple no without swearing to God to reinforce what you're saying or show that you're telling the truth, for fear of hurting someone's feelings or not being taken serious or at your word. However, that's what we should be doing, a simple yes or simple no. We don't have to swear to God to reinforce what we're saying or to be believed in our word. Because what would happen if you said that you were going to go do something that someone asked you to do and you said, yes, I'm going to do it, I swear to God. And then either intentionally or unintentionally, you weren't able to follow through, but you just swore to God. You just used his name in vain and you lied on his name. So you definitely don't want to use his name in vain for that circumstance either. So the third way of the Lord's name being used in vain, and this is probably the second biggest problem out there, is when people are giving false information and saying that it is coming from God. And I'm talking about when someone says, God gave me a message to give to you. I do believe that God speaks to people, and I do believe that God gives messages to people, whether it be in a vision or a dream or what some people call signs. However, if you're going to share that message verbatim and say that it came from God, you had better be very sure that it really came from God, because you do not want to put false information out there and say that it was given to you from God to give to somebody else. And this is kind of where false prophets come along, where they're saying, God gave me a vision that I have to tell you, and then their vision didn't come true when they're saying it was supposed to come true. That probably didn't come from God, but you've already used his name in vain, saying he told me this to tell you. So you must be very careful when you share God's message, and make sure that if you are sharing his word, that it really is God's word and coming from God. If you do put that word out that you believe strongly came from God, and it didn't, you could actually be harming somebody in sharing this message with them. And what I mean by this is, say we have someone, for instance, that says, God gave me a message that the world is going to end next week. Well, first of all, nobody knows the day nor the hour. So right there, if God gave you a message of the exact day and time, that is not from God. But there are people out there that will believe that. So if you go on and you say, this is what God told me to tell you, you're going to have people that are going to go as far as selling their homes, quit their jobs, run off into the woods, and lose everything because they believed that you gave a true word from God when it really wasn't from God, even though you thought it was, if you understand what I'm saying. Or you got a message from God that you want to share with somebody that say they will be healed, just sit tight, when in all actuality this person really did need to get some help to move along their healing. You could very seriously injure somebody to a point of no return. So if you're going to go out and say that you got a message from God, please make sure that it is very well 100% from God, and that you're not using the Lord's name in vain. So, quick summary to close out. The third commandment, as I said at the beginning, is thou shalt not use the Lord's name in vain, or don't misuse his name. So the three ways that I covered, in my opinion, is when you curse out his name, or damn his name, or damn something in his name, to swear by his name to validate what you are saying, or to use his name falsely that he gave a message to you to give to somebody else. Those are, in my opinion, the three most serious ways of using his name in vain. And I'm sure there are others, but those are the three that I wanted to cover just to give you an example so that you could think about ways that you may be misusing his name and be very cautious in how you use his name. So I would say use his name for good. Use it for blessings. Call on his name for help. Call on his name for comfort or for guidance or to help you through trials and tribulations. Use it to breathe life. Don't use it to cause harm or to curse his name. Don't do that. I strongly advise against that. If you found this helpful, hopefully I can get to the next commandment soon. But I am going to try to do little videos here and there of daily bread because I think those are very important, especially right now. And I'm going to try to share them with you and talk about those a little bit on how you can open up your heart to these words of guidance to build a stronger relationship with God and be able to follow those 10 commandments. So I hope you like the video and you guys have an awesome day. Thank you. Bye.